Hello and welcome to Charge Electric, and you join me this morning commuting to work on a lovely stormy morning. The weather is absolutely horrendous, and being the start of the winter as well, it's very dark, so hopefully you'll be able to see something on the video, and hopefully it won't just be a dark screen with me waffling on. But I am absolutely delighted this morning to be commuting to work in the all-new Kia EV6 GT Line S. Now, if you've watched my preview video on this very car, you'll know that this is the runway red model. If you haven't watched that video yet, then click on the pop-out banner above and you can watch my sneak preview of this very car from a few days ago. Now, I was lucky enough to be able to take the car home last night, but the weather was absolutely horrendous when I drove home last night, so I didn't really get to enjoy the car that much. It was more a case of trying to see where I was going. It was absolutely awful last night. But this morning, although it's still very, very windy and very dark, at least it stopped raining. So I'm just going to take you through a few things that I noticed on the EV6, now having driven the car, and hopefully enjoy my little commute into work. But the first part of my commute is a twisty sort of B road which goes between Torquay and Teignmouth. Now, the EV6 does look quite a big car when you first see it, but on this narrow twisty B road it doesn't feel too big at all. It's very, very easy to place in the corners. It's very stable as well. You can definitely feel that the suspension on this car was tuned to be a bit more engaging to drive. It's not harsh, it's what I would call perfectly planted. Not too much roll in the corners, and it seems to go incredibly well. Now, I absolutely love the interior of this car, particularly at night. So I've got the mood lighting set to blue. I'm a bit of a sucker for blue mood lighting, and I'm struggling to think of a car that I've been in recently that looks as nice as this one, particularly in the dark. Now, I am driving the car in iPedal at the moment. I have a little experiment with that while I could last night on the way home. And iPedal is a new feature to a Kia EV. Those of you who know the e-Niro and the Soul EV very well will know that when you put it into mode 3, it is almost complete one-pedal driving. But if you pull and hold the left-hand paddle, it will bring the car to a complete stop. But this iPedal takes it one step further. This will actually bring the car to a complete stop without you touching the brake pedal at all. And once it has stopped, the car will literally just sit there for as long as it likes until you tap the accelerator pedal again, and then off you go. So I'm really, really impressed by the iPedal feature. It seems to work incredibly well. It makes it really easy to drive as well. Just one pedal, just waft along, nice and easy. Now, when I got in the car this morning, the battery was on about 71%, and it's currently 70% and showing 195 miles of range. I've only driven about 3 miles away from my house so far, and I'm recording 3.4 miles per kilowatt hour. Currently driving the car in normal mode. Now, as I mentioned on my preview video, the car has a drive mode button on the steering wheel where you can cycle through Eco, Normal and Sport. In Eco mode, I think I'd only really use that one if I was doing a long journey and I wanted to eke out every mile from the battery as possible, because while the car's trying to conserve as much energy as possible, the accelerator pedal does feel a bit spongy, and you have to press it quite hard to get any momentum going. So perfect for just sitting on a motorway, trying to eke out all the range you can. But for my normal commuting, which is a 40-mile round trip every day, I think I'll just waft around in normal mode. When you put it into sport, you will see, whoa, it just shot forward then. The throttle response became a lot more responsive then. We can see the dials have just illuminated red in front of me. And the road up ahead of me is just about to go from a 40 limit to a 60. But there's a few tight twists and turns to do before the road straightens out a little bit first. Put it into this tight bend here. See, there's hardly any roll. You can properly put this car into a corner. know some other EVs that have driven this sort of weight, you really do feel the weight in the corners, but Don't really feel it so much in this one. I'm sure there will become a point where physics take over and you do feel the weight, but at this speed it's not too bad at all. I'm just going to let these vans pull away a little bit and I'll give it a quick blast in sport mode. Now this is the rear wheel drive model with 226 horsepower, and it has a 0 to 60 time of 7.3 seconds. Now not too long ago, 7.3 second 0 to 60 time was a pretty good hot hatch territory. So it is actually quite punchy, this one. Instant torque. Let's give it a quick blast. So now that is perfectly fast enough for pretty much most people, I think. Picked up really, really well. Instant torque. Up to 60 mile an hour in no time at all. I don't know if you can hear it on the camera. This car, as I mentioned on the preview video, has different sounds that you can have coming through the speakers to give it like a futuristic sound. I played with a couple of them. Last night when I was driving home, it was in dynamic mode. And that one is like a bit more of an aggressive, sporty sound, but it does sort of drone a little bit. I've now got it in cyber, which I think is one of my favourite ones. It's quite futuristic, but when you're just cruising around, you don't really hear it so much. But when you put your foot down, you can hear it sort of wear away and build as the speed builds. Not a bad sound, actually. Hopefully you heard it on the microphone there. We'll just try and give it another quick blast before we drop down to a 30 limit again. Just get around this bend. Let's see if you can hear the sound. Tell you what, it handles really well actually. It just feels so stable. Okay, the road's narrow, the lane keep assist is working away. But the car doesn't feel too wide for this road at all. Let's go back into normal mode. There we go. Now, even with putting my foot down a few times then, I am now recording 4.1 miles per kilowatt hour average on my journey so far. Granted, I've only driven about 6 miles now. Oh, sorry, 5 miles. But 4.1 miles per kilowatt hour. Still got 70% in the battery. Now when I do this commute in the Kia e-Niro, even at this time of year with the climate control running, I do tend to get to work at about anywhere between 4.7 and 5 miles per kilowatt hour. And in the summer months when it's warmer and I'm not using the climate control so much, I can get there at about 5 or up to 5.4 miles per kilowatt hour, which is incredibly efficient. So this is my first proper experience in the EV6, so I'm not too sure how efficient this car will be. It's a lot bigger and heavier than the e-Niro, so I'm not expecting it to deliver those kinds of efficiency. But Kia are renowned for making very efficient EVs. So it'll be interesting by the time I get to work to see what consumption I have recorded. Just dropping down into Shoulden now, so I've just come down a pretty long, steepish hill. And I'm now at 6 miles per kilowatt hour average. Woohoo! What does that equate to if I maintain that over the battery? It's well over 400 miles, isn't it? Anyway, I'll catch up with you in a second once I've got a little bit further on my commute. It's got a little bit lighter. Actually, you join me now only a couple of yards on from where I cut the video. This is at the end of Shoulden Bridge and it gets really narrow at this bend coming up. So what is this car like negotiating this really, really narrow bit? Can I keep it on the correct side of the road? Oh, easy peasy. No issue there at all. Tell you what, it's really, really easy to drive this car. Okay, you join me now about halfway on my way to work on another twisty B road. I've just done a long steady climb from sea level down in Teignmouth to the top of the old Exeter road, so it's probably about a 300-foot climb. And my consumption after that climb is now dropped to 2.9 miles per kilowatt hour. which is actually pretty good considering the climb that I've just done. Now we're back on a 60 limit road again. Now, one of the things I would like to point out, which I picked up while putting the car through a few corners, is this driving position is absolutely fantastic. I'm struggling to think of a car that's not a Porsche that I've driven recently with a better driving position than this. It is incredibly comfortable. This car is fitted with the suede relaxation seats, which are just an absolute joy to sit in. But I am in a perfect driving position for me. Could not be more comfortable. And there's so much adjustability on the driver's seat. I think anyone, no matter what size you are, shape you are, I think everyone will get comfortable in this one. It's an absolute joy to drive. Now behind a Honda Jazz. That means along this road we'll be doing 20 now. Oh well. But yeah, going back to the driving position, it is absolutely spot on. I know you won't be able to see it from the camera's point of view, but I'm really enjoying the augmented reality head-up display that's on this GT Line S. It displays a lot of really useful information. And I noticed last night on the dual carriageway when I was coming home, where I literally just could not see past the bonnet for spray. The weather was so bad. The head-up display was doing a really good job of letting me know what cars were beside me, what was in my blind spot. So it did give me a bit more of an awareness of what was going on around me. It worked really well, actually. We've got a few more twisty corners coming up, and then we're on to the dual carriageway. Okay, we're just about to join the dual carriageway, the A380. Drop back from these vehicles in front just to give me a bit of a gap to join the carriageway safely. I hate joining carriageways too slow, but what we'll do, we'll pop the car into sport mode and see how well we get up to motorway speeds along the slip road. A bit of a corner before we get to the slip road. The cars in front are far enough ahead. Okay, here we go, let's start building up. Well, that was easy. Absolutely effortless. There's quite a tight corner coming onto the slip road as well, and the car felt properly hunkered down. Absolute breeze there. Now what we're going to do now is try out the coasting function. So I'm currently on iPedal, so we're going to turn all of the regen off, and we're now in coasting mode. 70 mile an hour now. If I just lift off the accelerator completely, yeah, it just completely freewheels, not losing much speed at all. Now, I've experimented with coasting mode in EVs before on motorways, and I've found that to stay at 70 mile an hour, you can just squeeze the power on a little bit, get to 70, back off, let the speed just drop by a couple of mile an hour, squeeze it again. That, for efficiency, that seems to work for me. I don't know what everyone else thinks about how to do long distance motorway driving at 70. I always find the coast mode for me seems to work out quite well, especially if you've got a bit of a downhill section. It's amazing how far the car will coast with no power input from you at all. I'm now coming up to a very notorious hill called Telegraph Hill, which anyone who's local to Devon will tell you about. Getting up it is always a good test of a car's power, but going down it in an EV, it's quite a steep downhill, 70 mile an hour. I'm going to put the regen all the way on, and it's amazing how much power you can generate back into the battery going down this hill at 70 miles an hour. Okay, so just cresting the top of the hill. I've got 181 miles of range in the car. Let's see how much range I've got at the bottom of the hill. Okay, traffic was moving quite slow there, so I hit the hill at 60, not 70. But now we're regenning energy really hard now. will I add any miles to my range by the time I get to the bottom of the hill. Still on 181 miles of range. Yay, 182, range has gone up 1 mile. Alright, so nearly at Exeter now, nearly at work. But before I get to work, I'd just like to point out that this EV6 that I'm driving actually belongs to Speedwell Kia Exeter. This is their demonstrator. Speedwell Kia Exeter have their demonstrator. It is available for test drive, so anyone interested in an EV6 that lives in the Devon area, please contact Speedwell Exeter and Newton Abbot, and they will book you in for a drive. And the other good thing about EV6 is availability. I know everyone that reads the news on new car availability at the moment is all doom and gloom, but Speedwell, Kia, Exeter and Newton Abbot, if you were to order an EV6 rear wheel drive in either Air, GT Line or GT Line S, there are cars available for delivery before Christmas. Limited colour options on some of them, but there are cars available before Christmas. Now, what better Christmas present could you want? Place an order, get your EV6. Definitely one of the best EVs on the market, hands down. What a Christmas present that would be. So if you fancy one of these, contact Speedwell, Kia, Exeter and Newton Abbot. I'll put a link to their website in the description. Get one on order, and the chances are you'll have one before Christmas. If it's an all-wheel drive car that you're after, Kia haven't started building those yet for the UK market. Those will arrive later next year, probably around about springtime. But I think for most people, the performance of this rear-wheel drive car will be more than enough. I think you'd only ever go for the all-wheel drive really if you want that extra performance, that 5.2 seconds to 60. But if you're not too fussed about that, grab a rear-wheel drive one while you can. Because once those cars have gone, again, spring next year I think is the lead time that Kia are giving once this first batch is sold out. So if you are seriously thinking about getting one, just get one on order. You will not be disappointed. I cannot think of another EV right now that pound for pound offers, you know, this sort of value, this sort of driving experience, this sort of charging speed, this sort of range and equipment level. I cannot think of anything better that's anywhere close to this price point. So there we are. I hope you enjoyed my little commute into work. I'm just about to hit Marsh Barton now, which is a lovely trading estate. Thanks for joining me on my drive into work. It's a bit brighter now. Hopefully you might see the sun at work today. That would be nice. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.